In Activity 9, Behavior of Pond Snails, students observe the behavior of snails as well as changes in their behavior caused by various stimuli. They observe and describe a snail's response to motion, touch, and sound, and then learn how certain snail behaviors are an indication of unhealthy aquarium conditions. You will need the following materials from the kit: Activity Sheet 9, aquariums from Activity 8, plastic dishes, magnifiers, fish food, sand, and a plastic spoon. You will also need to provide crayons, white paper, paper towels, spring water, and behavior chart. To prepare for this activity, make a copy of Activity Sheet 9 for each student. Place a bottle of spring water and some paper towels at a distribution station. Each team of 4 will need their aquarium, 2 magnifiers, 2 plastic dishes, crayons, and 2 sheets of white paper. To begin the activity, call students' attention to the behavior chart from Activity 8. Review the behaviors that people and platys exhibit. Then add a third column to the chart and draw a snail at the top of the column. Ask students, what are some behaviors that snails exhibit? Answers may include crawling, eating, hiding, sleeping, and breathing. Then ask, which of these behaviors do snails share with people and platys? Students' responses may include eating, hiding, breathing, and so on. Circle the items in common on the chart. Next, divide the class into teams of 4 and have the teams retrieve their aquariums. Distribute the materials. Have the students place their aquariums on a sheet of white paper for better viewing. Guide students to observe the behaviors of the snails in their tanks. After several minutes, ask students if they have observed any snail behaviors not already listed on the board. Then add their responses to the chart. Next, distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 9 to each student. Tell students to choose a behavior that pond snails, fish, and people all share and draw a picture showing how each exhibits that behavior. Then, have students recall what caused the fish's behavior to change in the last activity. Ask students what might cause the snail's behavior to change. Accept all reasonable answers. Elicit that changes in or around the aquarium might cause the snails to behave differently. Inform students that they are going to observe how a snail reacts to motion, touch, and sound. Next, have the students pour an inch of spring water into their plastic dishes. Then have them remove 2 of the larger snails from their aquarium and place each in a dish of spring water. Ask students, what did the snails do when you placed them in the dish of water? Students may observe the snails looking for something new to attach themselves to. Remind students that snails typically like to anchor themselves to objects, particularly objects that are covered with algae. They hold fast much like a suction cup. This is a useful feature to have, especially in a river or stream where the water is moving. Once their snails have attached themselves to the side or bottom of the dish, instruct to carefully pick up the dish and gently swirl the water in it by moving the dish in a circular motion. The snails, if given a chance to anchor themselves to the dish, should be able to withstand the gently swirling water without letting go. Any that do let go generally pull into their shells for protection. Next, have students pick up their snails and gently turn them over to view the fleshy underside. Instruct students to lightly touch the snail's foot with their finger. The snail should react or pull into its body further into the shell. Explain that a snail protects itself from danger by pulling its body into its shell. Then, ask students to predict what the snail will do if subjected to sound. Students will probably predict that the snail will be frightened and stay in its shell. Have the students place the snail in the palm of their hand, hold their hand several inches from their face, and hum softly and steadily for at least 20 seconds. The snail should emerge from its shell. Ask students, why do you think the snail came out of its shell when you hummed to it? Students may suggest that the snail could hear the sound and came out to see what it was. Accept all answers. Explain that snails do not have ears, but a snail does have tentacles that are very sensitive to changes in the movement of air and water around them. When you hum, you create a vibration that travels through the air to the snail's tentacles. The tentacles detect the vibration and, like a television antenna, cause the snail to tune in or come out of its shell. Finally, remind students that, like the platys, snails are sensitive to the conditions in the aquariums. Students may have found one or two snails on the table next to the tanks, then ask, what might cause a snail to climb out? Students may suggest that the snails leave because they are stressed or to get away from some disturbance. Explain that snails escaping is a sign that either the water is too warm or too cold, or it does not contain enough oxygen. Inform the students that in the next activity, they're going to study the birth and growth of the animals in their aquariums. To conclude this activity, tell students to return the snails to the aquariums and the aquariums to their storage place. Collect the magnifiers and plastic dishes. Rinse and air dry the dishes and return them to the kit. Have students wash their hands. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.